Hello and welcome to another episode of The Modern Nerd. I am Sir Slice,
Nimes merchandise.
And I'm GJC.
and we are, as always, massive nerds. Now, as you can tell, we're all back again.
Good to have Dan back.
Our last two episodes was me and Dan, or me and Smirch, or me and George. So, you know, I did two with Dan. Sorry, George.
I am too.
But we're all
when
back
I
together.
introduced myself in that episode, I was like, "And I'm merchandise," like, just to mess with people,
It was classy guy. We felt your presence last recording through George Smirch. It was nice. You were there with us in spirit. And this week we are going to be talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender live action on Netflix. That is a mouthful. So for the rest of this, we will be saying ATLA. So if you now you know,
or just
and
Avatar,
you can follow along, or Avatar.
Just for short.
We're going to try and keep this to a minimum and very specific. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Our thoughts on Avatar: The Last Airbender. We had an opening scene change. They showed us how the Airbenders were slaughtered, which is pretty
Episode
much what happened.
1A.
Yeah, it's called Aang. And so for me, I didn't really find that did anything for me. It didn't. I feel it would have been better served if it was kind of chopped up and put into flashbacks throughout this first season. It would have kind of had a little bit more heft to it and made me feel a little bit more for the characters as we get to know them. That's kind of how I felt about that one.
I liked it. I think it was a little. They're kind of treating this as like, okay, most of you who've seen what's happened already. Here's maybe something that you didn't see before. I like that. Remakes notoriously kind of suck. And so it's kind of anything you can do differently or uniquely and say maybe show something we might have missed as fans of the show is a good thing, and I appreciated it.
All right. George?
For me, like, probably what's kind of striking about that whole opening is it dives right into like the CGI immediately. And for people who are not used to that style of CGI, it takes some getting used to. And I felt it was just a bad place to introduce that thing. Like, they should have played it out, like, do you know what I'm saying? They should have played it out like of a more realistic going, and then later on bring in airbending. And I just thought they misused the whole entire thing. And tonally, I agree with you about, like, it feels a little bit weird, but it takes a dark tone to start off with. So, yeah.
True. So jumping ahead, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the characters here. They are, for the most part, fairly different than the show, and that was to be expected. Aang being one of those ones that they changed. For me, he's not a kid anymore, and I feel like that was what kind of kept the show from being too heavy and gave it that broader audience and made it fun and entertaining, as you had this kid trying to grow up and grab a hold of his destiny and what that means to be the Avatar and still be a kid. So it made it entertaining. And for now, on this first episode, I feel like that it really changed the tone of the show overall, and I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah. Similar critiques all around. You can call it the writing, you can call it the direction, you can call it the acting. It's okay. I know that they're kids. I know they're doing the best they can. He seems okay, but I do think that this Aang is written without any of the fun-loving elements that the Aang possesses, the more enduring qualities that he has. That kind of drew us to him. Like, he's doing, yeah, like Tim said, he's doing all these things, but he still has time to like be a kid and ride a snow
penguin seal or whatever it was,
or go penguin sledding. Like, I could have used a little bit of something like that, but there was none of that. And I get it, there's not that much time, but still, I wish they would have given us something.
I just felt like out of all the actors, like the child actors, he's obviously the youngest, and he's also like noticeably the most green and raw. Like, he's obviously the least experienced actor out of all of them by a long shot. I'm not saying that he can't grow and he doesn't grow in his own, but I think he's doing also partially what he can with the character, because I'm not sure if what's being written and given to him is plausible or believable in the dialogue. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's hard for him to strike a balance, is what I'm trying to say, for that character. You could tell the show is trying real hard to strike a balance, and it's a hard character to get right for that. So
yeah, true. I don't really have much to say about Sokka. In any difference from Aang, it's pretty much the same thing. They took away his endearing qualities. He's, and when he does have like a quip or something that like they kind of toss in, it doesn't make any sense now, because it's just, why, like, oh yeah, get on this fur ball. It's like, well, why did you say that? Like, it's not this character that you are now portraying. It makes no sense to me. That's just my opinion. It feels very strange, and he's always been one of my favorite characters, and
It is early. It is early.
Yep.
I'm trying to temper expectations. Sokka did kind of suck early in the first season, as we should all try to remember. Not everyone quite found their footing. Even as characters, am I giving him the benefit of the doubt? No, I don't. It didn't work for me. Why so serious, Sokka? Why so serious?
Yeah.
This is a point I'm going to keep coming back to, which is like, I don't think he's playing Sokka. He's playing the guy from Ember Island Players playing Sokka. Yeah. Like, every one of these characters feels like somebody was trying to put on a real life Ember Island Players.
Except he's not making any jokes.
He's not making. Well, no, the dude from the
jokes.
But the jokes were, he made jokes. They just didn't hit. Remember in the play that he made plenty of jokes. True. None of them hit. This is exactly the same situation. This kid throws in these random Sokka-isms, and like, it's just in this first go around, they just it's not working. This is a rough. And I understand it's a first episode, so this is a rough going for Sokka this first go.
Yeah. I'm gonna lump these into one for mine. You guys can talk about them separate if you want, but for Zuko and Katara, they're both in like that, like, yeah, they're doing okay. Like, they did pretty good capturing of those characters from their first season portrayal, for me at least. Zuko was always really over the top and like, I must get him, and like, they did that pretty well. He's pretty caricaturized in the first season anyway, and Katara was fairly kind of bland and like, we must get to the northern whatever, and so like, I think they're doing a good job with her and Zuko in their portrayals and their writing. I think they're like one of the two stronger written characters from the original show to now, for me.
Yeah, I think Katara, the character, I think they got the sweet kind of sympathetic, empathetic style part of her, but they do not have the assertiveness part. Katara is one of my favorite from the original series, and it's just feel. I mean, like, I get it. I'm still trying to temper expectations, but it just feels like not Katara, like, at all. It feels just like someone else entirely to me. I think Zuko. Remember, this is season 1 Zuko. Season 1 Zuko is pretty annoying and insufferable, and I think this guy is doing a great job.
He's a character.
It's a bit much, but I think it's right. I think he's on the path, and I think this guy's doing probably the best out of all of them so far. We'll see how it goes for him. I'm excited to see how he does.
Yeah.
I think that Katara is out of the 4. Maybe just because of the way the character is written. She seems like she's the better actor out of all 4 of them, in the sense that like she's striking some of the tones that character like hit, which Dan alluded to. Like the sympathetic, like that's like core what Katara is. But I think it's kind of hard for her to find the balance between that and like, I'm a woman, like, I'm powerful, a warrior too, which is understandable. I mean, I'm like, she did better than ever. Out of the 3, she did better. I think Zuko did a pretty good job though. Like,
yeah.
let's get on to Zuko.
That was.
Okay.
Do you have more about Zuko? Go ahead.
I think that yeah, Zuko played like he was the guy from Ember Iron Players. Is a very much so character of. I mean, if you said like if you painted a picture of Zuko, like, and you were like, what in that first episode, in that first like season, that is Ember Island player, and that is what this kid is. Like, so I he's doing what he can with the material that he has. Is it believable? Like that there is like a
We'll see. We'll see how it grows. I'm excited for all of their character development. One of the more constants. Oh my god, one of the more constant people in the original show was Uncle Iroh, and I do enjoy this Uncle Iroh. I like him a lot. I'm still again I'm struggling trying to separate myself from the original show, only because I've seen it so many times, and I could break down that show minute for minute and just go into all the nuances. So for me, I'm trying to separate that, but I did like this Iroh. I think he kind of hit some of the beats kind of nicely, kind of some of the rhythm that the character had originally, and some of those sweeter moments. I'm excited to see more of him. I did want more, but again, that's just trying to separate the show from this show. So, Dan?
Iroh. Yeah, I think he did good. Not a lot of screen time. Still too early to tell. Seemed good. Love the actor. I'm becoming very familiar with his work. I think he's good. I think his cadence isn't as chummy as I would like it to be, but it's still again early. We'll see.
Yeah,
benefit.
George?
I really like the actor. He's also the same actor that's in like a bunch of things, like Star Wars. So I really like that. I love like, and that's just a quick thing. I know I didn't write this down, but that's just a quick thing. It's like, man, within the first episode, I saw so many familiar faces of Asian actors I've seen like random in small little parts. Like they like they're like the call went out. Like everyone that's Asian that's an actor is coming onto the show. It seems like it's so crazy. So even small little parts, you're like, hey, I recognize that guy from that other movie or that other show. Like, so this it's great to see that this guy has like a big role as Uncle Iroh.
He was in Kim's Convenience.
Yes,
that's
yes.
right?
That's the big thing that he's in, which was also
Appa.
Netflix, right?
He was the dad, which is funny. They call him Appa because that's how you say dad in Korean, and so
that's funny.
I thought that was entertaining. Yeah, I do like that actor. He's very good. All right, so some of the I think deeper things that we can kind of get into a little bit is for me the story beats / like animation type stuff. So they definitely changed. Now I know I've seen the second episode. George, you've seen more, and Dan's only seen the one. So we're going to try not to jump ahead here, but for this first one, they obviously changed some story beats and gave us, like I said, that opening bit with the air temple, and they even changed kind of the way they found Aang and kind of how they go about things in the Southern Water Tribe. Which was it always called Wolf Cove, or did they just give it a name? Was it really?
Yes. They never mentioned it. They never said it in that first episode, I don't think. But I mean, that is the canon name for where they came from, Wolf Cove.
Just didn't know.
I'm pretty sure that is the canon name.
Yeah, I like I said, I would have just liked that opening about at the Air Temple Island and that opening scene where they're talking about the plans for invasion. That was a little strange. That didn't really
kind of unnecessary,
need to happen.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
but it's like, oh, okay, cool. Just say it. You know what I mean? Like, the other odd thing was that the first episode. I might not say it, but like they had the opener where they talk over, and it was different, and it was Kyoshi, I believe.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah, it was Avatar Kyoshi.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm fine with some of the changes. Others, I'm not. Really, is what it comes down to for that. Go ahead.
I like it. Listen. I swore off remakes a while ago, and there's only one remake I was kind of come back to, and it was this one. I like it when they do things differently. It feels like they're making it their own. It makes me honestly just wish they had made their own separate kind of like Avatar story. Honestly, I think it would be. It maybe might not get the attention, but because you're gonna always compare, and anytime something's slightly different, I really like it. I think it's cool to see it told in a slightly different way. I think I have critiques about the writing, acting slash directing, but I think the story and with the way they're doing it, I think it's all right. It's working for me.
Good, good. George?
I think yeah, I'm more with Dan on that in the sense that I understand why the story is being told chronologically, kind of more and less flashbacky, just because like they really want to like set the tone sort of for like the general mood of the show. It's not going to be that Nickelodeon show that we saw in that first season right away. It's going to be more serious, and maybe that's just because there's only 8 episodes. Like this train needs to get moving, and it needs to get moving fast. You don't have time to stop by and do it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry to say, and that maybe that comes at the cost of some of those comedic episodes.
I did the math, and we're getting. I mean, I averaged this length, and we're getting a roughly just shy of 8 hours of Avatar because nothing's 60 minutes. And I went back and did the math on the old episodes, and it's like 7.5 hours. We're not missing that much time, like at all. You cut out maybe 1, maybe 2 episodes with commercials at most, so they have the time. Actually, we're getting more.
But like, do you expect it to go scene for scene, like
no,
line
I
for
do
line?
not. No. I do not. I just fell in love with those scenes. That's all. So, I'm hoping that it redeems itself later on in the show. All right. So the look of the show, the design, the visuals, the overall feel. I think a lot of us kind of have the similar on like the costume design. I think the costumes are great. I think they look pretty solid. I think for me, it's weird. The sets look great, but they look like sets in some scenes for me. And it kind of takes me out of it. Like, it looks like this is in a film, like you're on stage, like you're watching someone on stage do it, or you're on the set watching it happen. And it's kind of taken me away. And so I don't like all of it. Some of it is fine. Some, like that overarching shot, I used it for the background of this here. It looks a little stylized because I stylized it, but it is that Wolf Cove, and it looked gorgeous. But then like you get the close-ups, and like with them in the background, and like the white of the iceberg and ice and snow, and I'm like, it looks like 2 different things, like it is superimposed. So that's just me. But I mean, other than that, the only other bit is the CGI for the creatures, at least. It it really reminds me a lot of what Sonic the Hedgehog looked like before they fixed Sonic the Hedgehog, and so it's just like, just give me those big dumb doughy eyes, color them a little bit lighter, make the fur a little bit fucking not as matted and like dirty looking. Like, I get he's a big dirty furball for Appa, and Momo is just this wild little animal, but like, come on, make it a little something to kind of bring a little levity to the show. That's me. Hopefully I can get used to that. I can get back on board. It's just going to take more episodes. Dan?
Costumes look good. My only critique is like they're a little too loyal, a little too cartoon, and this is supposed to be a live action. Doesn't I don't know, Aang's especially, but it looks good. His tattoos are awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the design they went with. Sets, I think they're doing it for me. I think they're fine. And the CGI, don't love it. It feels like whenever the bending, especially fire bending, is taking place, it's taking up like 90% of the screen, and it's like, just give me, just go from this, just do this, you know what I mean? Like, that's, we'll still believe you. And honestly, and it's still just as convincing. Like, it's not like we won't know that they're shooting a blast of fire. Like, and plus there'd be less like there'd be more room for error. Like they'd be like, since it's so big, we're all looking at it like, well, that doesn't look very good now, does it? Because we're seeing it this amplified. So just bring it back a little, guys. I think it'd be anyway. I don't. I had a hard time Aang just flying.
Yeah, that was weird.
What the fuck is that? Okay, like I guess. But then he used the fucking force to grab the keys from the guard, and I'm just like, that's a gust of wind he's using. Like someone would have felt something there. Like you were not that precise of an airbender to have so much in this little. I don't know, man. That one. That one.
Isn't that how they did that in the show, though? Didn't he use some
The
air
guard
to
noticed
pull it
though.
off?
Like.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, doesn't matter. That's what I think.
You're not wrong. You're not
George?
wrong, George.
I would say the CGI does get some, like, it takes some getting used to. That's just like, that's the CGI you see coming out a lot from like Chinese studios and like studios in like the East. Like that's in that part of the world, that's like they're used. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they're used to that. Like that's just how CGI looks. So like their eyes are trained to like accept it, and like it's a little bit harder for us to, because we're like trained to look at Marvel and things like that. So it's a very different style of CGI. That's all I can say. Good, bad, whatever. That's up to you. Costume, spot on. Color palette, and that's coming from a guy who's colorblind. So take that with your grain of salt.
Always forget.
But the color palette looks exactly what it was from that first season. I mean, that blue is that blue. Like to me, that looked the same. You know, corporate wanted me to compare the two. It's the same. Okay. Let's see. Props department looked pretty good. Like some of the finer details on some of the things that they were using and like the things they were holding. I think that really helps an actor like feel and play spears, the wind glider, and all that stuff. Looks really nicely made. And also, of course, I have to compliment the details on the tats that Aang had, because that's not something that's in the original cartoon. Like he doesn't have that much detail in that tat. It's the blue and the arrow and all that, but there's not that all fine, intricate, like dark detail within that was in the. Like you never see that in the cartoon. So
they did, and I don't like talking about it because it was just such a bad taste in my mouth. But in the movie they made with Shyamalan, it was only the interlaid design.
Yeah, I think
that
so.
Shaped it. There was no blue color. It was like a blue ink, but it was just the line work. It wasn't like they did the line work and then filled the whole thing in blue. This actually takes both of those and combines them, and I'm like, that's all it needed. That's all.
It looks really good.
Like, it's blue, and it looked great.
It looked really great, actually. So and props. They got it right.
Yeah. They zoomed in on it, I think, at the end of this episode when he's floating in the air temple, and he goes into the Avatar state. Right? Is that this episode?
Mm-hmm. This is the worst one for airbending. I think they're not very good at making airbending.
Yeah,
I gotta say that. I think they're not very good at it. It's hard, like maybe it's hard to like I guess maybe it's hard to like visualize air, right? Like I can understand, like how you, like how do you, it must be hard.
Did you see it, guys? I'm airborne. You know what I mean?
Like, like
so credit where credit is due. They're doing what they can, and it's a very difficult thing to.
I get it.
So they're overworked and underutilized and underpaid. So props to them for doing it and getting it out. Okay. Overall, for me, I would give this 3 stars because there are aspects that I like. There are things I think that are going to get better that I'm complaining about now, or things I'm just going to get over and get used to. So I gave it that extra star from my normal original 2-star because it's not a 2-star thing. It is better than that. The writing hopefully improves a lot because the writing is absolutely atrocious, but other than that, that's a whole nother episode. 3 stars. I'm gonna watch the whole thing.
I'm gonna go 2 out of 5. And I by way of the modern nerd, I am contractually obligated to finish this show. So would I normally? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. This show reminds me that I originally came into the show for the bending, but stayed for the story and the characters, some of which aren't really showing up. So
none of which
we'll we'll see. See you guys on the next one.
George?
I'll give it 3 Flamios out of 5.
I almost wore my Flameo shirt, but I went with
three Flamios out of 5.
I'm gonna do that from now on.
I'm gonna give it the Harry Potter treatment. Listen, I read the Harry Potter books repeatedly, like more times than I can count. Probably at least 8 times, if not more. Like within when they were being printed, I would every time a new book came out, I reread the whole series. So imagine when all the books started coming out, I reread all the whole series every single time. So I've reread I love them, but I also really enjoy the movies, at least most of them, and I'm able to make that separation between the two, that like the movies are its own good thing. There's a lot of shortcuts that they took and a lot of things they left out from the books that I really enjoyed from the books, but I also understand that like book and source material and on screen does not always translate properly, and when you really have to flesh it out and write it out, things are going to be cut and things are just going to like, you're just going to be like, logistically, we don't even, like, it's hard to put together the scene, and do we even need it in the story? Do you know what I'm saying? That's constantly going to be what you're asking yourself when you're making an adaptation like this. So I give it a lot of freaking, like, leeway in that sense.
Sure. That's fair. That's very fair. That's a really good way to look at it, actually, because you're pretty much more able to separate than either of us are right now, and I'm working on it. But it's, like I said, very hard for me. If I were in the room just on the other side of this wall, I think I counted the other day, I have like 25 different Funko Pops of just Avatar characters and different releases, and I have different statues, I have artwork, I have all the comics, I have like majority of the everything you can get on this lore. So, I'm trying to take this and be like, this is more lore. It's not going to be the same, just different. Go with it. We'll see how it goes. Last question, yes or no? Do you think we're going to get a second and even third season? Dan?
Yep.
George?
I mean, we're probably going to get a Korra.
Okay. Oh, shit. You think we're going to get a whole nother...
No, we're not going to get a Korra.
I think we're going to get at least a second season. I'm kind of on the fence, but I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to lean yes.
I think we're going to get a Korra. I think we're going to get a Korra. I think this style, especially this tone, would work way better with Korra's show than it would with Aang's. Aang's sword. The reason why you do Last Airbender is so you can do Korra, because you need the setup for the world, and you need that because Korra, unfortunately, Korra's story without Aang's makes not a lot of sense. Unfortunately, do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you can't watch Korra first and then, I mean, I know some people might have done that and sure they can still enjoy it and that's feasible, but like you're supposed to watch Aang first then Korra. Yeah. So I think Korra's a quarter. Like I think as long as the show like gets the viewership that it like, solid viewership, Netflix is like, they'll spend money on it. They see how much the franchise is just like a cash cow. People will just watch it because it's Avatar. You have to understand that. There's a majority of people who will just watch it because it's Avatar. And there's people who are not our age group who grew up like on the cartoons during COVID and will just like consume Avatar shit. So
I'm most curious to see who... I want to get someone on here who hasn't seen the show. We are going to have another special guest on who has seen the show, the cartoon, less than us. But I want to get someone on here on one of these who has never seen the cartoon and has watched this. So I'm going to do some fishing.
That's going to be hard to find.
Think of anybody? Yeah,
it's going to be hard to find. Good luck.
I want to try and do that. But
it's hard to convince anyone to watch the show who probably didn't watch the animated show. I'm going to be honest with you, though.
You'll probably make it easier because most of the people who don't watch the cartoon don't watch it because it's a cartoon, because they don't watch cartoon shows. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, this is a very interesting first impression that we've had. We're kind of all over the board on this one. Some of us like it, some of us don't. You expect some of us to like it and we don't as much. So stay tuned. We might not do every single episode individually. We may do them in chunks just to limit how many we're doing, but we are going to break it down with a couple more episodes at least, so look for a few more of those about Avatar The Last Airbender specifically. If you had some other opinions, let us know in the comments. Give it a like and subscribe so you can see the rest of ours. And as always, if you've had a good time, we've been the Modern Nerd, and thank you for watching.